What up, what up, what up? Happy freaking Monday. I hope everyone had a lovely, lovely day, and I'm happy to see you back here, honey, because that means you know what time it is. Time to hop back into some Gypsy Rose BS, friends. Now, first off, we all know that Gypsy Rose went on that podcast, the Nobody Should Believe Me podcast, and that the lady who invited her was a lady named Andrea, who's like this big advocate for Munchausen by proxy or Munchausen, whatever. So I have been digging in, looking at little pages about Munchausen by proxy and asking my little computer questions. Munchausen by proxy is a psychiatric disorder where a caregiver intentionally fabricates, exaggerates, or induces physical or mental illnesses in a child. They do this to gain attention, sympathy, or to assume the sick role for the child. Now, here are some key factors why Gypsy Rose's mom may have not had Munchausen by proxy. For one, Gypsy Rose lied to her mother. She is the one who, when she started regaining feeling back in her legs, she didn't tell her mom, which made her mom unaware that they were deceiving people. So at some point, her mom was not intentionally making her fake that she couldn't walk. Gypsy was doing that. In some cases of long-term medical abuse, children become codependents or are so conditioned to the sick role that they hide their recovery from their parents. Now, I think Gypsy was just conditioned to the sick role. She saw the attention, the sympathy, all that good stuff, and she latched onto it and continued to play it. I'd even go as far to say that Rod was probably around more when Gypsy was sicker, and that made her lean into it more. Diagnoses require evidence that the parent is actively creating symptoms, faking lab results, causing infections, lying about symptoms. We've seen Gypsy Rose's medical records. We know that the doctors accused her of faking answers, like lying on her hearing test. She also had a sensation test done on her legs, which she gave wrong answers to. She claims that Dee Dee would put blood in her urine samples. We don't know that that's for real. Mark Feldman and old Andrea haven't gone through Gypsy Rose's damn medical records. They just listened to a murder, and it could be considered Munchausen if the mother did know that the child could walk, but continued to tell doctors, schools, and family members that the child is paralyzed and continued to seek unnecessary medical treatment for 10 years. That would fit the definition of medical child abuse. We know that Dee Dee at least knew for 4 years that Gypsy was walking. We know that at least for 4 years, Dee Dee knew that Gypsy had feeling in her legs. And I think that right there is why they continue to say that Dee Dee had Munchausen, even though Gypsy was a damn adult at this point. She couldn't control what Gypsy was doing, but Dee Dee could have informed people, hey, she's lying, and she didn't. And that's really the only way I feel like they can even pin the Munchausen by proxy thing on her. Even then, I feel like it should be Munchausen imposed on self. It shouldn't be on Dee Dee. Warning signs that would suggest Munchausen. The child's symptoms are only reported by the mother and never witnessed by doctors. We know that's not true. Gypsy was actually staying the night with people like her God-given grandmother, Marcia, and in front of Marcia, she would continue to play mentally delayed. It wasn't like she just did this, oh, my mama's around. Girl, y'all, she did it in front of everybody. People who knew them have flat out said that she played the part really well. Let's not forget that she was around her mom's side of the family, Rod, Christy, and her siblings until 2005 when she was around 14 years old and Hurricane Katrina hit. Supposedly her family members even believed that she was mentally delayed. Well, except for Christy. Christy did tell that one detective, don't let her fool you. She's smarter than she seems. Anyway, the mother refuses to accept that the child is getting better and pushes for more testing or surgeries. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Dee Dee did take Gypsy to the doctors a lot, but once they got the diagnosis in 2011 that Gypsy had 1Q2 1.1, all the doctor's appointments slowed down except for when she'd go to get her feeding tube changed. And Gypsy even tells Aaliyah Wood-Monzi in the text messages, I have a micro deletion that was causing all of my illnesses. That right there sounds like Dee Dee and Gypsy had accepted the fact we have answers. It definitely didn't sound like her mother was pushing to get more tests done. Summary: if the mother was truly in the dark about the child's recovery, she cannot have Munchausen by proxy, as that requires deliberate, conscious intent to deceive. However, this situation indicates a highly disturbed medical or psychological dynamic that warrants professional intervention such as child advocacy, therapy, and a thorough review of the medical record. Pretty for sure it says professional, but I cut it off. But either way, even this says that Gypsy Rose's damn medical records should have been gone through. And I asked, is this information from Mark Feldman's teachings? It came back as yes. Several core principles in that explanation align with the teachings of Dr. Mark Feldman. Here are some of the sources. I don't want nobody acting like, oh, you're just pulling that out your ass. No, I'm pulling it from Dr. Mark Feldman's damn teachings. So let's hop into some of his teachings while we're here. Dr. Feldman's work is that Munchausen by proxy, I don't know why they worded it like that, is defined by intentionality. If a mother genuinely believes her child is sick because because the child is hiding a recovery. Dr. Feldman's teaching suggests this lacks the deliberate deception required for the diagnosis. Now, Dee Dee did believe that Gypsy was genuinely sick. And I myself wonder how much Dee Dee really knew, since Gypsy was lying to her for so long about the fact she had feeling in her leg. I wonder, behind closed doors, did Gypsy do like she did in front of Nana and play like she was mentally delayed? She did it in front of doctors. She did it when Dee Dee wasn't around. Leah Woodmonsey seemed to be the only one that Gypsy really talked to about things like wanting to be a grown woman and wanting to kiss boys, other than the grown men she was talking about, but you know what I mean. So at some point, yeah, Dee Dee did believe that Gypsy was genuinely sick, and she was. She ended up being diagnosed with 1Q2 1.1. Now we know in 2011 she became aware that that Gypsy could walk, and she didn't say nothing, so she is guilty of that. But I feel like that was just malingering. She wasn't making Gypsy do that. Gypsy was just staying in that fucking wheelchair. Even in Gypsy's video to Nick, where she's explaining the situation with her legs, she says, I've tried to tell my mom a few times, but I just don't want her to stop loving me. She says how she doesn't want to lose friends from having to explain the truth and stuff like that. It just doesn't sound like, oh, Dee Dee was forcing me to be in the wheelchair. Honestly, I think it only started sounding like that when Gypsy's story started selling and making money. The medical child abuse rebrand. Feldman often advocates for the term MCA, medical child abuse, because it focuses on the harm to the child rather than the complex psychology of the parent. In your scenario, if no falsification, exaggeration, or induction occurred by the mother, it wouldn't fit the criteria for medical child abuse. And another thing, if Gypsy wouldn't have lied about the fact she could feel her damn legs, there's a bunch of procedures she probably wouldn't have had, like the sensation test. They did a muscle biopsy and shit. Like, if she would have just been honest, those things wouldn't have happened. They were literally searching for reasons why she couldn't walk. That's why I say I feel like it's Munchausen imposed on self, because she is the one who lied and then ended up being forced to do all this stuff because she wouldn't just be honest. Even the damn drooling thing, like when she went to do the dang swallow study, in part of the notes it says that they thought that some of it was behavioral. I'm just saying, like, some of this just was not Dee Dee. It was Gypsy. It's why those damn medical records should have been gone through before Mark Feldman and all of them decided, oh, let's give an opinion. How are you going to give an opinion on something like this? And the opinion is based off of a story that you have heard from a freaking murderer who has everything to gain by you siding with them, by you buying into that story. Honestly, I think it was negligent that he even gave a damn opinion when he hadn't seen her medical records or looked at any of the documents in the crime. But that's just my opinion, friends. Child's internalization of illnesses. Dr. Feldman has noted that children in these environments can suffer psychological damages, sometimes adopting self-falsification behaviors where they may hide their own health or improvement to maintain the family dynamic out of fear. Sorry, that one took me a minute. So they're doing it to hold the family together. Again, Gypsy Rose said something along the lines of she didn't want to lose her mother's love. I think that stems from Rod being absent in her life. I think that gave her abandonment issues. And like I've said many times, I would be willing to bet money that Rod came around when Gypsy Rose was having like a serious medical issue. He showed up and stayed around for a little second. Gypsy saw that as a way to get attention. And at first it was just for her dad. And then it ended up becoming a bigger scale, She ended up doing it on a larger scale, getting attention from other people, money, all that shit, trips. And yeah, that's where this ended up. That's what I think. That's my opinion. We already know that she definitely hid her health improvement. She didn't tell nobody when the feeling in her legs come back. She also lied on her hearing test and acted like she couldn't hear shit. And they literally documented Gypsy as possibly malingering. Again, that's why he should have read Gypsy Rose's damn medical records. The separation test. One of the diagnostic indicators, Dr. Feldman frequently highlights is whether symptoms miraculously improve when the child is separated from the caregiver. If the child could walk when alone but couldn't walk around the mother, it points toward a high-stress psychological dynamic, but not necessarily a disorder in the mother if she was truly unaware. Now, we know that Gypsy went over to her Nana's and she didn't get out that daggone wheelchair, honey. Nana thought she was had the damn mind of like a 14-year-old. So yeah, I would not say that you could take Dee Dee out of the equation and Gypsy was just, oh, I'm all better. The only time she got up out that chair with, oh, I'm all better, was a year after her and Nick got together, and she had been lying to Nick on her own free will. Nobody prompted her to. Her mama didn't know she was even talking to that man, and she was lying to him, telling him she was paralyzed until she wanted her mom out the picture. Then she stood up, showed him she could walk, told him all kinds of crazy shit. I wouldn't say it's taking Dee Dee out the picture. I would say it's Gypsy Rose knowing how and when to manipulate a situation to her benefit. We know that Gypsy Rose had numerous amounts of times she could have stood up and let anybody know what was going on, yet the only time that girl stood up and took off was when it was to go see a 30-something-year-old man when she was 19, and that is the same time that her mom found out that, oh shit, she can walk, she can run, she can feel her damn legs. If you want to see Gypsy Rose admitting all that, go to Into the Weeds and you can see that video. It's this video where she's dressed in this right here. I also asked, can children do this, like pretend they have all these symptoms and it not be the parent? They said yes. Dr. Mark Feldman's research explicitly states that children and adolescents can develop factitious disorder imposed on self. Dr. Feldman highlights several ways this manifests in younger people. Progression from victim to perpetrator. Feldman has observed that some children who were victims of Munchausen by proxy eventually become Munchausen patients themselves as they grow up. They may internalize the sick role as their only way to receive love, nurture, or a sense of control. Again, y'all know how I feel. Something happened in her younger years that clicked for her, that made her realize that, oh, me being sick is how I get attention. Early onset. He has documented cases where children as young as 8 years old, if you remember, Gypsy Rose got in the wheelchair around 9 years old. That's when she got in it and just didn't ever get out. Children as young as 8 years old began falsifying their own symptoms, such as feigning seizures or headaches to feel special or exert control during times of family instability, like a divorce. Do y'all remember that story about Gypsy's mom trying to talk to some dude? I believe Gypsy said she was 6. I think it's in the prison emails. She spits on that guy and she tells him she doesn't want him around. She wants her daddy back, even though her daddy and her mom hadn't been together for years. I think Gypsy feigning her illnesses was her exerting control over Dee Dee. Adopting the sick role independently. While most people associate these behaviors with adults, Feldman notes that adolescents may engage in sophisticated medical deceptions, such as faking symptoms to obtain hospitalization and the attendant care and concern from medical staff. Again, he found children as 8 years old were doing this. All these people who think that Gypsy couldn't be capable of it, she definitely could have. She has admitted to some of it in her freaking videos. You know what I'm saying? She has admitted that she was faking this shit, that she didn't tell people that she felt her legs. She has admitted she didn't want to tell people. She didn't want people to hate her. Now, right here, it says how that kids will engage in sophisticated medical deceptions, all right? And that they can fake seizures. And isn't that crazy, considering that Gypsy Rose says she doesn't remember having any, but her dad says she did. Also, Gypsy got a lot of attention from medical staff in the places she went to. She did those whole little speeches when she went to the conferences. She stayed at the Ronald McDonald House for months on end and was very close with the medical staff. She said that they would let her answer the phones. And I will say it again, I think Gypsy's father being absent made her need fulfillment. So she needed attention from other people. And she knew being extremely sick was the way to get that damn attention. Avoidance versus seeking. Interestingly, Feldman notes that survivors of medical abuse often fall into one or two extremes. They either avoid all medical care due to PTSD, or they seek it out pathologically through factitious behaviors. Now, I don't think that Gypsy has PTSD because, as soon as she got out of prison, as soon as she got out, she got her nose done, she got veneers put in, she got pregnant, had a baby. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's probably, I ain't even gonna say it, she definitely don't have PTSD in my opinion. I know this is getting kind of long, but it's a lot of information. I still want to show y'all some things about misdiagnoses and Dr. Mark freaking Feldman. Oh yeah, and rare genetic conditions. First off, Dr. Mark Feldman observes that the perpetrator often appears to be the most devoted and loving parent. To a child with an absent father, the threat of losing the super parent could be enough to maintain the lie for years. So he is saying that the child could lie for years on end because of their parent, the other parent being absent. Gypsy's dad being gone could make her feel the need to lie for forever so she doesn't lose her mother's love. I do find it interesting that if you're a devoted parent who really wants answers, you may be in freaking danger of, getting accused of having Munchausen by proxy. If you fight for your damn kid too hard, you might be a perpetrator. I also looked up how often is a parent accused of having Munchausen by proxy when their child actually has a rare condition that was found later. No way to track that either. Dr. Mark Feldman and the organization like Autism Research Institute acknowledges that misdiagnosis is a significant and complex issue. They try to say a lot of cases of Munchausen by proxy go undetected, while the rest go misdiagnosed. That's alarming. Rare disease overlap. Symptoms of rare genetic or metabolic disorders such as mitochondrial disease often present as inexplicable or unexplained, which are key red flags doctors use for what? Munchausen by proxy. Check power. Some experts point out that child abuse pediatricians have significant influence, and their subjective gut feelings about parents' behavior can sometimes outweigh a rare disease specialist's opinion. So they're saying the doctor, the pediatrician, they could have a gut feeling, and that genetic condition, it don't make a shit. It's not the genetic condition, it's the parent. That's crazy. At least I think that's what they're saying. That's what it came off like to me. What do y'all think? Dr. Feldman acknowledged that the fear of false accusations is a reality. Though he maintains the actual cases of Munchausen by proxy are often missed rather than overdiagnosed. He does not want to admit that they misdiagnose people. You know why? That's because he has like 5 lawsuits because he has misdiagnosed parents with Munchausen by proxy. He sure has. Pattern over symptoms. Munchausen by proxy is a pattern of deceptive behavior, not just a set of confusing symptoms. A parent with a child who has a rare disease might be super anxious, but they are not fabricating or lying about the child's condition. Doctor shopping. Parents of children with rare diseases often see many specialists to find answers, a behavior that is also a major red flag in Munchausen by proxy. Gypsy Rose saw a lot of specialists. It made it look like Dee Dee was doctor hopping when she was just looking for answers. Parents who are highly involved and assertive in their child's medical care, common in the rare disease community, can sometimes be misinterpreted as being controlling or deceptive. I wonder if that's how they painted Dee Dee. I also looked up how many parents have lost their custody due to false allegations of Munchausen by proxy. And since 2010, the reports, the data, it suggests hundreds of kids have been taken from their parents due to misdiagnoses of Munchausen by proxy. Large-scale investigation. A year-long investigation by the Houston Chronicles and NBC News in 2018 found that over 300 families across 38 states reported their children were wrongfully removed following mistaken or overstated reports of child abuse by doctors. These are unfounded reports, by the way. In one spot in Pennsylvania, 40% of the state's Munchausen by proxy diagnosis came from one area. That's wild. Some studies of child abuse teams show that after initial evaluations, up to 52% of suspected cases were unsubstantiated, and about 7% of those were later proven to be medical conditions misdiagnosed as abuse. While Dr. Feldman acknowledged that Munchausen by proxy is rare, estimating 600 to 1,200 new cases per year in the U.S., he believes many cases are missed rather than overdiagnosed. Again, it seems like he is downplaying the fact that they have misdiagnosed parents with this very serious mental health condition. While Dr. Feldman is one of the world's most prominent experts on Munchausen by proxy, he has faced legal and professional challenges regarding the accuracy of his findings. Lawsuit from families by at least 5 families who claimed he was reckless or negligent in misdiagnosing them with Munchausen by proxy. 5 freaking families, okay? 5 families he misdiagnosed with the same damn Munchausen by proxy diagnosis. That's alarming. I'm just gonna fucking tell you. And also, if you didn't know, you can be a fucking expert in anything. I could sit down and read 5 of his books and then call myself an expert. In those 5 cases I mentioned, CPS did investigate and they found no evidence. Nothing, no evidence of no damn Munchausen by proxy or any abuse. And thankfully, the kids were returned to the families. Again, 5 cases where kids were taken away from their parents because of misdiagnoses by the same man who says Gypsy Rose had Munchausen by proxy. Despite these lawsuits, Dr. Feldman has generally escaped legal penalties. How do you ask? Oh, because he did it under the guise of, I really thought they were in danger. So he gets these kids taken away and nothing happens to him. Why microdeletion 1Q2 1.1 is often mistaken for abuse. The symptoms of 1Q2 1.1 are often at the heart of unexplained medical cases that trigger Munchausen by proxy suspicion. The symptoms of 1Q2 1.1 can be very subtle or inconsistent. A common red flag of Munchausen by proxy. seizures, and weak muscle tone. The condition can cause both, which can lead to difficulty sitting or walking. In medical child abuse cases, like we saw earlier, seizures is one of the top symptoms, as well as low muscle tone. Because 1Q2 1.1 is rare and was first identified in 2008, many doctors were not testing for it till recently. For years, unexplained neurological problems were chalked up to Munchausen by proxy. It can lead to difficulty sitting or walking. In medical child abuse cases, parents are often accused of abuse because what? Like we saw earlier, both seizures and low muscle tone are both key factors in Munchausen, whether it's imposed on self or whether it's by proxy. Like it said earlier, both, whether it's an adult or a child, they fake the seizures. The unexplained factor, because 1Q 2.1 is rare and was first identified in 2008, most doctors were not testing for it until recently. For decades, unexplained neurological problems were frequently attributed to caregiver fabrication, Munchausen. While Dr. Feldman does not have a 1Q2 1.1 specific case like active, his work has been legally challenged on broader grounds. Again, in at least 5 legal cases, Dr. Feldman's recommendation of Munchausen by proxy diagnosis was rejected by state investigators who found the parents were innocent and return the children. But we're taking his word as church for Gypsy Rose Alcida, and he has admitted, I've never seen her records, I've never talked to her attorneys, I've never talked to her family, he's never fucking talked to her. Genetic overlap. Medical advocacy groups for conditions like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and mitochondrial disease frequently cite the risk of Munchausen by proxy misdiagnosis, as these genetic conditions often involve the same doctor shopping and inconsistent symptoms seen in factitious disorder. So if that don't freaking prove that just because Mark Feldman said it doesn't mean it's freaking true. The guy's wrapped up in 5 different lawsuits where he had kids taken away from families for misdiagnosing the parents with Munchausen by proxy. And per his own damn studies, I got my information from these sites, by the way, and all these little links right here, and all these findings align with damn Mark Feldman's teachings. That man is not perfect, and he has not seen any kind of real evidence that Dee Dee had Munchausen by proxy. He's never seen where in Gypsy Rose's own medical records, she is accused multiple times of lying, of freaking malingering. You would think that an expert who's been doing this for forever and a day, who has flat out said that the person he's actually listening to suffers from, some degree of sociopathy, you would think he would question her story or want to see documents before he continuously just backed up her lies and diagnosed a dead woman, destroyed a dead woman's damn name. But nope, he didn't. Seeing the media attention, the news outlets, that shit was enough for him. I know this is a long video, but I wanted to show misdiagnoses happen. Mark Feldman himself has misdiagnosed several people. 1Q2 1.1 is a very rare genetic condition. Only 108 people or 102 people have been diagnosed since 2008. While Gypsy Rose's damn medical records did say possible Munchausen by proxy, that was 3 or 4 years before she got her diagnosis for her microdeletion. I'm not saying Dee Dee was some great mom or that she was perfect. I am saying, though, that Mark Feldman may not know what the hell he's talking about. He hasn't even seen the damn documents. I think it needed to be brought up that there are rare conditions that get misdiagnosed for Munchausen by proxy, where parents get their kids taken away because they have such a rare condition that it hasn't even been tested for. Even in these little documents, it said that 1Q2 1.1 wasn't being tested for until recently. But hey, that's just my thoughts and my opinions. You know what it is. I just wanted to share it with y'all, show y'all that misdiagnosis happened. Mark Feldman has multiple damn lawsuits. Mix in a genetic condition and a child that lies. And well, I don't think you have a Munchausen by proxy diagnosis when you get all that. But that's just my opinion for entertainment purposes only. But this is not all alleged. You saw the sources. And this is not to bully or harass. You know what it is. She did that shit.